Nolan Baker brings us up to date with what's happening with Manchester United and Dan Ashworth, and they finally got this deal done. Yeah, and I think United will look at this appointment going into the transfer window with a clear plan, with a clear structure. You remember when the Glazers accepted the minority investment from Ineos, they handed Ineos control of the football operation. So could you say that that was an admission that they'd got things wrong in the past 10 or 15 years because they've handed somebody else who's come into the club all control of those football operations? There was effectively no structure, there was effectively no sporting director for a number of years. Now, what Manchester United have is a structure that includes Omar Barada as the Chief Executive Officer. He'll officially start his role in a couple of weeks. You've got Jason Wilcox as a technical director, and now you've got Dan Ashworth as a sporting director. And I think what you'll see is a more detailed and a more targeted approach to recruitment, simply because Manchester United don't want to be involved in long drawn-out transfer sagas as they have done in previous windows. If they have an idea of a price for a player, they will probably stick to that price and probably want the team and the club that they're buying from to reduce their asking price if a deal is going to go ahead. Otherwise, they will move to alternative targets. Now, those above Erik ten Hag, those people that I've mentioned will now work with Erik ten Hag, and it will be a team effort when it comes to who leaves the club, when it comes to who joins the club as well. Because it has appeared in the past that the manager has had quite a strong say, and almost to the point where the manager's been driving the recruitment. That won't be allowed to happen anymore. It will be driven by the recruitment team in conjunction with Erik ten Hag and United. With this structure in place, we'll hope that it will be more detailed, more targeted in both the short term, the medium term, and in the long term as well. Yeah, so you've talked about they're going to be ins, definitely going to be outs. Let's get to the specifics then. I mean, he's going to have his work cut out, hasn't he, from the outset? What's his interest starting at the back? It looks like a big priority, the central defensive position as far as Manchester United are concerned. There is a strong interest in the Everton defender Jarrad Branthwaite. We do know that. We do know that they made a £40 million bid which was rejected out of hand by Everton, and as I mentioned before with regard to their transfer approach. I think Manchester United will only go back in for Jarrad Branthwaite if they're getting indications from Everton they're going to bring down that asking price. But because Everton have made a couple of sales in this transfer window, Dobbin to Aston Villa and also Ben Godfrey has gone to Atalanta. It appears now that they're not under much pressure to reduce their asking price with regard to Branthwaite, hence why Manchester United are looking at other targets. Bayern Munich's Matthijs de Ligt is a target that Manchester United are looking at. They're looking into the conditions of a potential deal. No official approach to Bayern Munich yet, as far as we're aware, but we are expecting one for them to find out how much de Ligt would cost. So definitely one to look out for among other central defensive targets. Right, what about up front? I mean, they're going to want someone to help out Rasmus Højlund, won't they? Yeah, and the one we have been talking about is Joshua Zirkzee from Bologna throughout this transfer window. We do know that Manchester United will meet that release clause of around €40 million, which is around £34 million, and they've made it clear that they will do that. As it stands, talks are progressing between Manchester United and Ziyech's representatives over personal terms and all the rest of those contractual details, because sometimes it's the difficult part getting the fees sorted and the easier part is getting the personal terms sorted. This will probably work in reverse because we know that there's a release clause. United expected to meet that, and with that in mind, it's going to take a bit of work to try and sort out these personal terms. But once again, if that can't be achieved, they will move on to other targets. Okay, let's talk about other targets. Midfield. Because, I mean, that was a big problem last season. What are they looking at in that area? Yeah, one player we have been talking about in the last couple of weeks is the Paris Saint-Germain midfielder Manuel Ugarte. He's on Copa America duty just now with Uruguay. Discussions are at an early stage between United and PSG. They're just exploring the conditions of a potential deal before they decide to pursue a potential deal. And he's not the only midfielder that Manchester United are looking at. I know I'm saying that quite a lot here with regard to alternative targets, but it shouldn't be ever looked at. I think in the current Manchester United and the way they're trying to do business in that, there's a primary target, and if they can't get him, they'll move on to their second target. I think they're looking at 3 or 4 targets who they believe will fit the profile of the player that they want. And then if they can get the deal that they want, that's the player that they'll pursue.